Hi, and welcome to Misty and Me with Freedom. My name is Martin, and this is Misty, my 4-year-old Labrador. Misty and me moved aboard Freedom in March 2020, and together we began a new chapter in our lives. Misty is more than my dog, she's my best friend, companion, and security officer. Ahead of us we know we have many new adventures, and would like to invite you to join us. Simply subscribe and follow to watch as our boat life unfolds. We do hope you enjoy the following vlog and continue to watch. Thank you. Hello and welcome to Misty and Me on board Freedom, and this is our first, it's our first cooking vlog of the new year. I hope you've all had a good Christmas, and I thought we'd do something a little bit different. I've had a request actually through the channel from a lady who asked me if I could show how to do jacket potatoes in a boat stove. So we have I've actually got two humble jacket potatoes, but I thought we'd make it a little bit more interesting, and I'm going to make a dinner out of what I find in the fridge. So it's going to be a little bit of a combination of all sorts. And I've costed this out, and including the two potatoes it comes to 97 pence worth. So that's going to make a good dinner for 97p, and it's just using up bits and pieces. So without any more ado, let's get cooking. Okay, so just before we start, a bit of a top tip. If like myself you're using a worktop and a plastic chopping board, if you just dampen a dishcloth, put it on your worktop, place your board on the top, then when you come to cut, you're going to have a lot less movement on your board. It keeps it a little bit more stable. So the first thing we need to do is prepare the two potatoes to go into the stove. Now, yes, I've got one large, one small, but it won't make a lot of difference when we actually come to do the cooking side of things. So all we need to do is, holding them firm, is just put a cross into the top of each of the potatoes, and this will obviously help to let the steam out as and when you go in the stove. Now the golden rule, if you're going to cook in a boat stove, is do wrap these twice. So that way then you're going to avoid the risk of burning. So each one's going to get a double skin of tin foil. You don't need to wrap it too tight around them. As I say, you're going to put a second one on just to offer that little bit more protection. Now these will take something in the region of about an hour if your stove's really hot, like mine is. And what we do, once we place them, we're going to turn them about 30-35 minutes into the cook. We'll just turn them over, and that'll help cook them evenly. How simple is that? So all we need to do now is get them in the stove. Okay, all we need to do now, as you see, the stove is ticking over. It's not a raging fire, it doesn't need to be. We're just going to place the two potatoes right at the front. You don't need to get them into the back because obviously there's a lot more heat there, and these will just gently cook away now, as I say, for just maybe an hour and 10 minutes. So just close the door and let the stove do its business. And the nice thing with this is you're cooking your potatoes at no additional fuel cost because you've already got your stove on this time of year, keeping your boat nice and cosy. So now let's have a look at what we're going to add to these jacket potatoes that we found in the fridge. Come and join me and have a look. Right, now obviously everybody's fridge is going to be a little bit different. So what I found, I had half an onion, a small amount of cheddar, some mushrooms, a couple of tomatoes, I may only need one of those, an egg, a part packet of easy to make cheese sauce. I think that was left from Boxing Day when I made a bit of a cauliflower cheese and I couldn't be bothered to make a bechamel, but you will see how to do that on one of my previous vlogs. And some unsmoked back bacon. So let's see what we can do with this. I think first of all what we'll do, we're going to slice up this onion. Now again, it doesn't matter, you don't have to put onion in it, it's just as it's sitting there and it's going to go to waste. So we're just going to finely chop it, we don't need it into great big chunks. And then we're going to sweat this off with the rest of the ingredients. And then we're going to create a beautiful cheese sauce. It'll go on top of the taties. And as I say, it's going to cost very little. I love budget cooking. It's not because I'm mean. It's just that I grew up on a farm in the middle of Lincolnshire back in the 50s. And we had to eat whatever Dad could shoot because he was obviously a farmer. And Mum used to make meals out of anything at hand. Right, we're just going to chop these again, slice them thin. Don't need them to be like, we're not making a stew, so they don't need to be massive. I'm just going to chop them into a bit of a finer. Now these will cook down, so it looks a lot, but obviously, as I say, these will, when we sweat them, they'll sweat down into very little. Now again, with all my styles of cooking, it doesn't have to be precise, it's whatever works for you. So, and feel free to experiment a little bit. Now I think we'll use just a couple of rashers of bacon into the mix. Get rid of that bit of old manky mushroom. Again, just slicing up. Just needs to be roughly chopped. It doesn't need to be a specific size. It's just going to add a little bit of flavour to the mix. And again, it's a bit of bacon that chances are I wouldn't get round to using otherwise. Now, the tomato, as I said, I think I'm just going to use the one. Make sure that you do have a nice sharp knife, and if yours aren't, then do go back on and have a look at the vlog that I did just before Christmas on how to sharpen your knives properly. That's the tomato, again just rough chopped, and then I'm just going to grate this cheese. Now if I was a TV presenter I'd have all this done in advance, but I'm not, so I haven't. So just rough, again coarse, grate it. It doesn't need to be fine. It's more of a rustic dish, so it means you can get away with a lot of little culinary tricks. Okay, we now need to go to the oven and to the hob, and I'll show you how we're going to put all this together. Right, okay, let's have a little bit of heat going. And what we need, we're going to fry the bacon off first. With just a little bit of olive oil, don't want a lot, we don't want it greasy. And we're going to fry the bacon off so it's crispy, and then we'll remove it and then we'll sweat off the onions and the mushrooms, and then we're going to combine them into the packet cheese sauce that we had, and then we'll add the bacon back in. And then you'll be asking what happened to the egg. Well, that comes into play in a few minutes, so let's just get this nice and hot, and then we'll get started. As I said before, you can add or remove whatever it is you don't like or you do like additional to this, because it's basically a meal in a potato. That's all we're doing. I'm just going to remove my smoke alarm, otherwise when this gets going we'll have sirens going off. So we're just going to get this nice and crisped off. This is the time of year when a jacket potato goes down really, really well on a frosty day, and you're snug on your boat, and if you're out cruising, the nice thing is once you've prepared this can be done first thing in the morning, because you're going to allow it to go cold, and then obviously you can just pop your 2 jacket potatoes in, and whilst you're cruising the potatoes will be cooking away, and then the last little bit of the dish is done using the grill, so you can just finish it off as and when you've moored up and you're ready to have something hot and wholesome for your dinner. Now I'm going to cut back to this in a minute when this has got a little bit crisper, as I'm sure you don't really need to see it sizzling away for the moment. Alright, welcome back. As you can see now, this bacon is nice and browned off. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to take that out and place it onto some kitchen roll in a bowl, just so that there's no excess of fat. It just keeps your bacon nice and crisp. Now if you're wondering why am I using a saucepan to do this, not a frying pan, it's just that it keeps all the splats that you might create off your worktops. Saves cleaning up a lot after. Okay, with the bacon out, moderate heat. Now we don't want it glazing away. We're going to put the onion in first. Don't matter if a bit of mushroom goes in, but just put your onion in. And we're going to sweat the onion, which obviously means it's going to get cooked through, but we don't want it excessively brown. And we're using the same pan, using the same residue of the olive oil, so all the flavours get combined into the ingredients that we're actually using, and adds the flavour into the sauce, and then obviously we'll use that when we dress the potatoes. So again, I'm just going to sweat this off, come back to me in a minute and we'll add the mushroom, and then we'll get the sauce made. There we go. Right, the onion's now cooked through. Don't need it to be overcooked. I'm just going to put in the mushroom. We're not going to put the tomato in at this point, because otherwise it'll just make everything too mushy, and that's not what we want. So now we can turn the heat up, get these mushrooms cooked off again. We're still using the same oil, the olive oil that we used to fry off the bacon bits, and all that goodness is now being soaked up into the mushrooms and into the onion. I like these simple dishes. They take no creating. You can play with them, you can add whatever you wish. We're not putting any seasoning in at this point. There's certain dishes I always say put a little bit in to start with, and then add your seasoning at the end. Now this one we're going to put the seasoning in at the end, because obviously the bacon's got salt in it, and it's easier just to let all the ingredients cook through and then just adjust the seasoning at the end. It's a lot easier. Like I've always said, you can always add seasoning, but by crikey, it's a heck of a job taking it out. So these are cooking through lovely, and then we'll make the sauce. This is the sauce that we've got in here. There's only about, imagine, a couple of teaspoonfuls. It'll be just enough to act as a binding agent, and makes it easier to transport all the ingredients then onto the top of the potatoes before we finish off under the grill to make two absolutely tasty jackets. So I think that'll do at that point. So we're now going to just put a drop of milk in the pan. Not too much because we haven't got a lot of this sauce mix. Put in the powder that we've got. And that'll just thicken up and make a bit of a sauce. And again, as with the seasoning, you can always add milk, but taking it out is a pain. So just put a little bit in. If you've made a bechamel and you've done say a cauliflower cheese a day before and you've saved some of the sauce, then again it's ideal just to mix all your ingredients in with a little bit of bechamel cheese sauce. This is starting to thicken up a bit now, so we can add a little bit more milk. Just don't overdo it. We don't want a sloppy kind of sauce to go into the potatoes. We want it to keep some sort of solid consistency to it. Just cooking this out now, because if we don't, you'll have that very powdery back taste to it. We don't want that. Now it obviously takes a little bit longer when I'm videoing all this, but in all honesty, preparation time in total maybe 10 minutes maximum. Jacket potato time, baking is again approximately, depending on your temperature of your stove, but you're looking approximately an hour and 10 minutes. You know, I prefer mine to be a little bit well done in the potatoes sooner than, I like the skins to be nice and dark. That's looking good. That's what we're after. So now we're going to put the cheese in that we grated earlier, and again the tomato and the bacon doesn't need to go in just yet. Lots of goodness going in with the cheese. Got a flavour like a nice mature cheddar. Again, you could do this using from Christmas any leftover Stilton. Would make it a little bit more of an interesting camembert. It really doesn't matter what cheese, because it's just giving a background taste to your sauce. As you can see now, it's all mixing up lovely. We're just going to let that cook a little bit. Just a quick taste, see if we need any seasoning in there. Not really, maybe just a little bit of pepper. There's plenty of salt, and the cheese adds to that. So I'm glad I didn't put any salt in earlier on. I'm just going to cook this out. And then once it's cooked out, we'll add the bacon and the tomato. So come back to me in a minute. Right, all that is cooked through lovely. Now, don't worry that it looks a little bit thick, because it needs to be. Remember, this is going to be a dressing on top of a jacket potato. If you made it a normal sauce consistency, all you're going to do is pour it over the top of the potato and it's just going to run everywhere. So now we add the tomato. We're just going to cook that through very quickly. Doesn't want a lot of cooking. You know, it adds to the texture if you leave it so it's a little bit undercooked on the tomato. You don't need it because again it's going to go under the grill and it'll finish it on the grill. And then we're just going to put in this bacon. Mix all that together. And for now, that is it. All we've got to do is allow this to cool, because we are going to place an egg in amongst it, and we don't want it hot because otherwise the egg is going to cook as soon as we mix it with the sauce. So we're going to let this cool down and we're going to let the potatoes cook, and while that happens I've got a Christmas tree to take down. So let's get cracking. Okay, these have been in now about half an hour. So we're just going to gently turn them over with the tongs. And leave them to finish. Okay. Right, so what we need to do now is get these open a bit. Now I've got I actually prefer mine, as I said before, if anything a little bit overdone. Reminds me when I was a kid and they'd be done in front of an open fire. Right, so now just give them a bit of butter, or in my case a lot of butter. There we go. Now I've already beaten the egg into the sauce while it was cool, so we just need to put a good helping of this into the potato. And the egg will cook when this is under the grill. And just to give it a finish off, a nice healthy amount of cheese. So that's under the grill, and I'll show you the end result in a minute. And here we go. Absolutely, it smells gorgeous. Really, really does. Now I know all chefs say that, but it does. Full of goodness. Costs absolutely nothing to make, £1 or just under £1, and a fantastic lunch on a cold wintry kind of day. So I hope that's inspired you to go in the fridge, have a look, mix things about, don't be frightened to experiment, and you don't have to cook your potatoes as much as me, but I do like mine. As I say, I like them well done. But just cut down your cooking time if you prefer them to be, you know, what I call a soft skin. I like hard skin, just as I said earlier. It reminds me when I was a kid and they were done on an open fire. So I'm now going to eat my dinner. And if this was smell-o-vision, you would be drooling. It smells gorgeous. And I'm just hoping now, as I'm sure it will, it'll taste as good. So until next time, thank you for watching. Please subscribe, and if you like it, give me the thumbs up. Goodbye.